Hi, everyone. We're just waiting on a few people to join on the Zoom call. We're expecting about 2-3 people to come on the Zoom call, so we'll start shortly. Hi, everyone. We're starting with our Q&A. So the reason for the Q&A was we're picking up from our previous session we did on setting up your ClickUp account. And we went through the property management company with the repairs. So I want to go further with some questions I got during the week. And I thought, let me just go through the common ones I get most of the time when people do start with the ClickUp account. And the first three, just hopefully you can stay for the next 30 minutes. Promise to keep it short. We're going to go through the first one would be what can users do? So in ClickUp, you've got different types of users and they also come at different prices. The second thing that comes up often is what's the difference between a space, a folder, and a list. So you can see in our setup, we just have a space and then we created a list. So we haven't created a folder in this case, but I'll show you how folders can be used. And then thirdly, how to monitor and how to communicate with your staff. So if once you've got all your users on board and you've got all your staff, how do you actually then communicate with everyone? How do you keep tabs on who's doing what? What's the difference between and what options you get when using ClickUp? Specifically, we'll be speaking about is the homepage function and what the home function does. There is a few differences in the homepage if it's a person who's the admin user, when it comes to lineup, something I use quite often, and guest users. Okay, so let's start with the first one. I was expecting more people on the Q&A on the Zoom call, but it seems that maybe got busy or they maybe have internet trouble, or something else came up. but we can start anyway. So let's start with what users can do. So I'm going to go to the settings page at the bottom, and what it will do is it will allow you to invite people to your workspace. So in most cases, you will have one workspace with the avatar that you chose for your workspace when adding an account. You can add additional workspaces if you've got other companies or you want to work on someone else's workspace and you've been invited to their workspace. But in general, you'll have one workspace. That's the highest level you get in ClickUp. Then you can invite people to your workspace. So when you invite people to your workspace, there will be a cost involved, depending on what plan you're on. And you can manage people. So in this case, you got a full member and you can invite guests, and it goes through how you can invite a guest. I'm going to go through that another time on how to add a guest, but ClickUp does have good documentation on how you can add a guest and what type of, and how you can share spaces and folders and tasks with the guests. Let's go to the pricing and what guests and what full users can do. So if you decide to add guests to your space, you'd want to have to upgrade depending on what type of functionality you want. So to upgrade, you'll click on the upgrade function, and then they've got the 3 tiers, which is popular amongst software solution companies. The first one obviously is unlimited users. So if you want to stay on the free plan, you can have unlimited users. You get 10 automations a month, which we'll go through in the later on in the year. So if you're familiar with the program, I'm just going to go to my website. So if you go to cfohire.co, I'll set out a whole training plan under the live training. So when going onto the live training, we got a full plan on how the series will be progressing each month. So each month we'll be doing a webinar, a live webinar for 1.5 hours. So we had hours in January for getting started, just an overview. If you miss a webinar, we're going to keep the recording. So there will be a recording for the webinar. And you will miss out on maybe asking and the interaction, but you viewing the recording, I'm going to try and keep it more shorter, and I'll try and delete some of the items just so it's more easier flow when watching the recording. So every month I'll be doing that. And then on a Thursday evening, we'll be doing the Q&A once a month. So on that topic, we'll be doing frequently asked questions. And if there's people on the call, we will then go through the live questions. So general features, tasks and views, how to use your tasks and views, and how to view your workspace, and optimal viewing, like filtering and the different types of viewing options that ClickUp allows. We go through dashboards and reporting on the 4th month, and then that's where the automation's coming on the 5th month. Automations work really well once you know what type of dashboards and reporting you require, and once you've got your setup done correctly. And then obviously you can have integrations to be integrated into ClickUp like other software programs. We'll go through that. Hopefully by June, when you do the integrations part, there'll be more information and there'll be more software companies that will be able to integrate onto ClickUp. So that's why we're doing it in 6 months' time. And then we're going to go through more use cases, specific use cases, like the CRM and onboarding. We'll go more into remote work and stock management. So these are some stuff I'm thinking about. It might change. So going back to the users, what users can do. Okay, so there is a free plan, and the free plan can work for you. It's only the biggest drawback with the free plan is the storage. So you're not going to get the option of storage of documents on your workspace. So that's the biggest thing to take note of. If you do decide to upgrade and you want to go to the unlimited plan, which is the most popular plan, this allows you more functionality. The biggest functionality it allows you is it allows you to have unlimited list views and calendar views. So there is limited views that you can get on the limited on the free plan. So unlimited plan takes that away, so you can see your stuff in different views, and it allows you to then have 5 guests and 2 extra guests for every additional member you have past your first member. So we'll talk about the full members and the guest members, what they can do. Then after that, we've got the business plan, and this is the plan I recommend if you're on business. After you play with ClickUp and you get used to it and you get used to what the potential is, you'll end up going onto the business plan because you'll see how much easier it is, just the way it flows and the way it works. The biggest reason I'm on the business plan is because I'm using the automations. So it's allowing me 10,000 automations per month, which I'll go into more detail when the automations does come about. If you're getting started with ClickUp and you're not having anyone like holding your hand or coaching you, and you're actually going to play with it yourself, you might not go into the business plan from the onset because you might not be going into the automation in the beginning. But what helps is the personal views and the default views. So when you start using ClickUp, you come to a point when you're so used to a specific view and you want to see that view all the time in most of your workspaces, and you just want it to default to that view. And you'd like your staff members and other team members to also see that view as a default. Instead of every time filtering and then going to the view, it takes up time and a little bit more clicks. And yes, it might sound like something so basic and so simple, but believe me, when you get used to having a custom view that's default to yourself and to your workspace and coming back to it at a click of a button, it does save time and it is really convenient. You can also protect that view. So if you have another staff member that came onto your view and changed it, which can happen on the unlimited plan, they could change your view. And then afterwards you go back to the view and the view is gone. And you got so used to that view. Now you have to redo the filtering, redo what you want to see, custom fields. It can take time. So that's one of the main reason I moved over to the business plan. There is other types of advanced exporting that can be done. And there's the biggest benefit is depending how much is on a team. That's another reason why I moved over is I get 10 guests. So for every full member on my workspace, I get 10 additional seats that I can put as guests. Now, what is a guest? That's another question I get quite often. What's the difference between a guest and a full member? Let's quickly go into what resources that ClickUp does have on the website. So I'm going to put this page through on the screen, and this will give a better idea of what guests can do. Now, I'm not going to go through the screen in terms of boring you reading out what's written on this PDF according to roles, but I'd more like to come to what type of activities or functions would someone in your organization do on ClickUp? That's the first question you should ask. So instead of going onto a PDF and seeing what can an admin user do, what can the owner do, what can a member do, and what can a guest do, I would recommend rather asking yourself, what do you want the users on ClickUp to do? And by doing that, and knowing what the functionality is that you want the individual to do on ClickUp, and then go to the roles and see, does it fit those roles? Then that takes you and makes you understand what roles you'll need in your organization. So for instance, in my organization as an accounting firm, I'm the owner of the firm. So I will be doing all the main setup of the firm. So I'll do the spaces, I'll create the lists, I'll create the task templates, and I'll do the overall setup. My right-hand lady who's in admin, she oversees the staff and she understands. So she's basically the PA, understanding what tasks has to be done and understanding how my diary works. And she does the planning, and she also does the collecting of documentation from clients. Now, in her case, she will have additional type of user rights compared to the bookkeepers and accountants on the ground, whose mainly function is operations and making sure that the accounting part is done in the practice. So their role in ClickUp is more tracking, ensuring that they're performing their tasks on time, performing clients' requests, and their time when it comes to ClickUp setup will be limited. They're not going to be setting up a full ClickUp from start to finish. They're mainly going to be maintaining the ClickUp. So in that in mind, they will be able to create tasks. A bookkeeper would like to create a task if he knows he has to finish a specific task in terms of a bank recon or a credit recon. He'd like to provide a status update, if it's complete or not, if he needs additional help. He'd obviously want to communicate on the platform, make a few comments, that type of thing. So that's what the people on the ground in your organization would like to do. So naturally, the question comes down is, where do they fit into these roles? And the answer would be guest. So I know it sounds funny because you'd expect a guest, someone to be outside your organization, someone like a client, or a third party or a supplier. But a guest is just that, someone who's in your workspace. So it's in your workspace, but can't edit the spaces and lists, but they can do all that other functionality I spoke about, which is creating a task. So can you see here by creating, they can't create lists, they can't create projects, and they can't create spaces. But what they can do is they can create a task, okay? So just take note of that. That's a big thing because you mainly just wanted to create a task. A full member can then create a space, projects, and lists. And this is what you'd like someone who's a manager in your team to be. Some of your team could perform that role. And then the admin user, you only actually need one admin user. The admin user does all the functionality of the member. The only additional things they can do is they can do importing of data, exporting of data, and they can manage the settings page of your ClickUp. So they can decide what type of email integration you want to use when email does come about, and what type of OneDrive or cloud storage you'd like to use. Is it Gmail or OneDrive, or is it going to be Dropbox? So they will be doing all those type of setups, which is done actually once off. That's the biggest difference. Then comes your member view. So your member view, these are paid members, called full members, preferably people that are going to be staff members or going to be managers. They can then also do, if you are using tags, and we're going to go into tags when it comes to the month 3, when it comes to the views, it works very well. Your basic member who's a guest, they won't be able to adjust tags. Take note of that. And you can't share or edit privacy. So whatever they capture as a guest, they can't hide it from and decide who must see the task. Okay, and they wouldn't need to do that. As someone who's performing tasks on the ground, they're not going to be allocating tasks to someone, and they'll just be focusing on what has to be done on their side. So that is why, as a full member, that suits them. You know, a full member would then assign tasks and decide who gets to see what and edit the privacy settings. Okay, and then we've got the adding people. It's quite obvious. As a guest, you wouldn't be able to add people. That is something left for the member. Okay, cool. So the next thing I want to go through, we've got about 12 minutes left. I was going to check the live feed if there is any questions, or some maybe people got stuck on the Zoom link. So see on the live if there's any questions on the comments on the YouTube. Okay. CFI. Okay, we don't have any comments yet, so it's fine. Let's check if there is any comments. All right, so we got the next thing I'd like to go through is we gone through the payment side and what guests can do and what different plans there is. The next thing to discuss then is how the hierarchy works on ClickUp. So the hierarchy is quite simple to understand maybe, but it's harder to implement. So what people and business owners struggle the most is, yes, they understand what the space is. It's the highest level you get. Then they understand after that you can add a folder. So on this folder, we can create a folder, a new, sorry, I create a new list. I can create a new folder, and this folder, I can call it past residence. So past residence, and then I can call it current residence. So I can have two different folders. So I like to split my residence into past residence and current residence. Okay. And what that means then is if I got that as my folders, I then put my lists into those folders. So here's a simple CRM we created as a list, and that falls under our current residence. Our past residence, we don't have any, but if we do, we can have also another thing called residence names, and we can rename it by name or units or whatever type of housing you have in your specific property. And here's our current residence. So that's the flow of the space level, folder level, and list level. Once again, we just started this organization last week. We added a few tasks under the property management, and this list would fall under maintenance. Let's call it general maintenance. In this case, the general maintenance went under the property management. Maintenance. Okay, well, I can create a folder, and I can create a folder called maintenance folder. So let's go new folder, and we call this maintenance folder. So now that we've got the property management and we've got the maintenance folder, we can put that under the maintenance folder, correct, go to residence. This simple one should go under the current residence. Cool. So let's go there under current residence. Okay. So now that I got that, we must ask ourselves what type of spaces do we want and what do we actually want to report on? And by knowing that, we'll know what our list should look like and what our folder should look like. So one example would be is where the biggest mistake I found people doing is not knowing when to use a list and when to use a folder and when to use a space. Okay, and the biggest advice I can give when it comes to that is ask yourself, what is it you'd like to share to a third party, meaning a client or someone outside the organization? Because in general terms, you would normally share something either on a list level or at a folder level. Sometimes you might want to also share it as a space level sometimes. So look at the sharing options. So the sharing and permissions, you are allowed to share stuff outside your organization. And then by doing that, you'll get a URL link and they can go into the URL and then and view it from there. So take note of what you'd like to share. That's the first thing. So if you have a specific client in your organization that you'd like to share a specific tasks with, if you're going to have all your tasks under general maintenance, you have to ask yourself, how are you going to share that with them? Because if you're going to share this general maintenance to them, then they're going to see all the maintenance across the whole property. Whereas if you've got like a plumbing maintenance, so let's say plumbing, and you've got a certain service provider who's doing plumbing. So plumbing maintenance, and they want to know live report what is going on in the property regarding the plumbing structure. So if you add a task here and you say there is a pipe leak, you can track this in your own organization, on your own workspace, and you can share that with them. So now you just got to share the whole plumbing, and all the plumbing notifications they will get directly in their view. And I don't want to do it now. I don't have enough time. This is something when it comes to views, when we do discuss views, we will be discussing how you can share these views and how people can view it on their side. And all these type of other options you get, like creating a task, copying the link, and then adding a template. Now the template is something I want to end off with. So we went through the spaces, folders, and the list. The next is the template. So you can create a template as a task, as a list, as a folder. Okay, and depending on how custom you made the template, that'll determine when you want to use that template. That's something I'm going to go more in depth when it comes next month on the templates I have and why I choose to use the specific templates I have and how I reuse an old template that I have. So you got two options with the template. You can either save a template and then reuse it, or if you're happy with a certain template, like let's just say this is a template you had and you've got special checklist here. Let's say add checklist and call supplier. That's one of the checklists you have to do, is once you call the supplier, and after you call the supplier, you have to receive a quote from them. So you received quote. And then after that, there's another thing, you have to make out a purchase order. So make a purchase order. So you can agree with me, you don't have to be typing this out all the time. So the one option you have is you can add this and save it as a template. And then when you get a new task, you can always just reload that from the checklist. Okay, that's the one option. The second option is you can duplicate this task. So by duplicating this task, it allows you to do exactly what it says, duplicate it, and everything that's on this task will be copied and pasted into a new task. You can decide what type of items you'd like to duplicate and what you'd not. So I can rename it and say block drains in toilet. It follows the same flow. And you know what? It assigned to the same people, but rather don't assign the comments. I'd rather leave the comments aside. And I would like to duplicate this task. So now what happens is when I go out of my task and I go into the block drains in toilet, see it kept everything. It kept it as urgent. It assigned to the same person. It gave the due date. It kept everything the same. It even then kept the checklist. I call them plenty of times. We can change this custom field there. We can just take it out. And then you can start from scratch with your task. Now, why I'd like to use this function is if you went to your new task from scratch, can you see it's blank? So we can call it blank task and say toilet. Now, if that was the same type of task in terms of your common denominator was your due date, why would you want to have to now redo it and say due date, create a subtask, create a checklist from scratch? You see, it's going to take you longer. So just take note of, that's a quicker way to use your workspace. I like using the duplicate function on my workspace. And yeah, those are the 3 tips I can give you on today's live webinar. I would have liked more participation, but it seems either people got busy or distracted. But I'm happy that we got to go through the 3 things. That's the 3 things I wanted to show you. And then for next month live, let's go back to the website. What we're going to do next month live is we're going to speak on the second one on general features. So the general features we'll be speaking about is I'm going to go more in depth with the templates. I'm going to talk about a little bit of the tags. I'm not going to go too in depth because that's more for me helping with views. I'm going to show how to use the Click apps. What is a Click app? We're going to go more in depth with the Click app. And take note of how the space looks at the moment. If you look at the space, it's quite bare. We've got a residence. We just started on this account. Current residents. We've got simple CRM. We don't have any tenants or anyone here. We've got a default template. So I'm going to create my own template and I'm going to put it inside here that you can use as a for property management companies when it comes to your database of residents. And we're going to go more with the property maintenance tasks, what you can do. And that's the aim of the of what we're going to go into for following month. And I'm going to show you how it looks. So if you can compare how the view looks now and compare it with using the features of the Click apps, templates, you will then understand how hopefully to do it yourself or what thinking you must put in place when speaking with a consultant, and also understand what you can do with the setup when it comes down to the dashboards. So obviously, because it's a new company, there will be no dashboards. It's a very new setup. But if you've got a good setup, you then will be able to then put it under a dashboard. Okay, perfect. Thanks for those who watched the live. I will be keeping this content on the YouTube. So if you know anyone else that could benefit from it, you're welcome to share the link or share the channel, or even better, ask them to subscribe. By subscribing, it allows others to then find my channel and also allows me to boost and become more recommended for ClickUp on YouTube. And yeah, this allows everyone else to get onto the workspace a bit quicker and a bit faster. Thank you.